AI minds, quantum leaps. Cut the noise, dive deep. Truth unlocked. Dr. Mike on the mic. Tech Unfiltered is on the clock. Now it's time for the show.
Today's story concerns a boundary that may have been crossed. According to Ukrainian investigators, an onboard computer selected the intended final target of a Russian drone strike, and the explosion killed 3 civilians. That does not mean software chose the war, the city, or even the broader mission. People reportedly launched the weapon and sent it toward a gas station area. The claim is narrower, but consequential. Once the drone arrived, its camera and onboard artificial intelligence selected the intended object to attack without a real-time human operator confirming that final choice. The New York Times published this investigation on August 24th. The strike itself happened on July 6th in southeastern Ukraine. Ukrainian air defense officials and forensic investigators said the weapon was a low-cost, fixed-wing Russian drone carrying an Nvidia Jetson Orin computer. Investigators said the software had been trained to recognize categories of objects, including gas station equipment and propane tanks. Specialist reporting says the drone failed to clear an apartment building, struck a wall, and detonated near people sheltering in the area. The Times reports that 3 civilians ultimately died. Regional police separately documented the broader Russian attacks and casualties that day. Before going further, we need to separate the accurate version from the dramatic version. This was not a chatbot, and there is no evidence that a large language model planned an attack or developed an intention. This was computer vision running locally on a small edge computer connected to a camera and a weapon. It is more accurate to say that the system reportedly selected its intended target than to say that AI chose to kill 3 people. The public evidence does not show that people were the target class. The drone did not reach its intended target, but its explosion killed civilians. That distinction does not reduce the harm. It keeps the claim tied to what the evidence can support. The local processing is important because the reported vision function did not need a cloud connection or continuous radio commands. Cutting a command link may not stop targeting that runs on board, making ordinary radio jamming less useful. Sensors and navigation can still be jammed, spoofed, or disrupted. Autonomy is not a simple on-off switch. A weapon can automate navigation, object tracking, the final approach, target recognition, or the final decision to engage. Those are different levels of human involvement. In this case, the strongest supportable account is that people chose the operation and the general destination, while software made the last target selection decision. Human responsibility does not disappear at that handoff. Someone approved the design, selected the target profile, authorized the mission, and launched the weapon. So what is the evidence? Ukraine's domestic intelligence service showed Times journalists 2 damaged but recognizable guidance systems containing components from Nvidia's Jetson line. Finding a capable chip in wreckage is not enough by itself. It proves the hardware was present, not what the software actually did. The same caution applies to a missing control antenna or a drone that was not transmitting. Either detail can be consistent with autonomous operation, but a simpler weapon can also follow pre-programmed coordinates without a real-time connection. Investigators said at least 1 recovered system was not encrypted. They could examine stored terrain imagery and code describing categories of objects the drone had been trained to attack. Specialist reporting says the material included a classifier for propane tanks. A group of roughly half a dozen drones also reportedly flew without transmitting. Taken together, the onboard computer, the lack of a real-time control link, and the readable targeting material form a serious case. But there are limits. The chain of custody and technical analysis are controlled by Ukrainian institutions fighting the war. The reviewed sources include no complete public forensic image, reproducible test, or independent laboratory report. Nvidia confirmed the hardware type, not the targeting conclusion. Russia did not provide corroboration in the cited reporting. The responsible posture is to treat this as substantial, attributed evidence, not as a universally verified technical fact. The hardware matters because Nvidia's Jetson line is a standard civilian on-device AI and robotics platform. Students, researchers, factories, inspection systems, warehouse robots, and startups use products in this family. The computers process camera and sensor data locally, quickly, and within a modest onboard power budget. Some cost only a few $100s. Those useful civilian features also work on a battlefield. A small computer can run a vision model after radio contact is lost, and the same software can be copied across many inexpensive airframes. That suggests autonomous target selection could spread through ordinary commercial technology, not only through rare strategic weapons. Nvidia told the Times that these are consumer-grade products intended for beneficial uses, that the company does not sell them in Russia, and that units moving through resale markets are extremely difficult to trace. The carrier board was reportedly marked as made in China, but the route into this weapon remains unclear. There is related evidence, but it needs its own qualification. Earlier this month, Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Agency reported finding another Nvidia Jetson module inside a different new Russian missile. The agency said the component may indicate AI guidance that shows commercial on-device hardware appearing across more than one Russian weapons program, but a chip still cannot prove what any particular missile's software was doing. That is the dual-use problem. Very strict controls on a general-purpose developer board could harm legitimate education, medical research, manufacturing, and robotics. Loose controls make diversion easier. There is no single policy lever that removes the military risk without affecting civilian innovation. This is not a comfortable story about only one country. The same investigation reports that Ukraine has also tested an entirely autonomous system against fuel storage and military equipment in occupied Crimea. Ukraine's former defense minister said those tests caused no civilian deaths. Attacking military equipment and testing a classifier over a populated city are not equivalent, but both sides are reducing the human role in target engagement. The International Committee of the Red Cross describes in its position an autonomous weapon as a system that, after activation, can select and engage targets without further human intervention, using sensor data and a generalized target profile. If the investigator's account is accurate, the reported final targeting behavior fits that concern even if a person chose the broader mission. The Red Cross also stresses that the weapon is not the legal actor. Human beings remain responsible for distinguishing military targets from civilians, weighing expected civilian harm, and taking precautions. A commander or government cannot transfer those duties to a classifier. Existing humanitarian law still applies, and the organization argues that new binding limits are urgently needed. For ordinary people, the broader shift is physical AI moving out of the browser and into machines that act in the world. The same kind of local vision that helps a robot sort packages can guide an aircraft toward a visual category. Once an action is fast, local, and irreversible, familiar safeguards such as a warning screen or a human reviewing the result afterward arrive too late. 3 questions deserve public answers. First, must a human positively confirm every lethal target, or can choosing a general area count as sufficient control? Second, will these systems keep tamper-resistant records, showing what they saw, how confident they were, and why they acted? Third, when the model, sensor, training data, operator, and commander all contribute to a fatal mistake, who is accountable? The sober lesson is not that a computer became a soldier. It is that people may have handed a computer the last choice among possible targets in a populated place. The hardware is widely available, the software can be copied, and the human role can shrink without much public notice. The forensic claim still deserves independent scrutiny. But the governance problem is already here. Automation does not erase responsibility. Deciding to delegate a lethal choice is itself a human decision, and it should never be treated as an invisible one. I'm Dr. Mike, and this is Tech Unfiltered. I'll see you in the next episode.